just the daughter-in-law of the former president, but the co-chair of the Republican National Committee. All right? Lara Trump joins us now from the venue in Atlanta. Thank you for making time. Good to see you.
Thank you, Chris. Great to be with you.
First, just a small thing, but on a tactical side, how big a deal is the muted mic? I know that obviously your father-in-law agreed to it, but what do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that this is an attempt to prevent Donald Trump from doing what he does best, which is those quick little one-liners. You know, everybody remembers the 2016 debate between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, where she said, it's a good thing you're not in charge of the law in the country. And Donald Trump said, because you'd be in jail. That was, I mean, that brought the House down. Probably, Chris, in the same way, they don't want to have an audience there because they know that there would be massive applause and a lot of, noises and things that might be distracting to one of the people on the stage. I don't believe it would be for Donald Trump. And you were just talking about the fact that your producer mentioned this is the first time these two would be together since probably the last debate. The last time they spoke
not
was
my
probably
producer,
the last
my
debate
boss,
they had.
Laura. Don't get me in
your
trouble.
boss. Oh, excuse me, your boss. Yeah, let's get it straight. This is also, Chris, the first time they've come face to face since Joe Biden's Department of Justice was weaponized to give Donald Trump these 34 ridiculous felony counts. So it's going to be an interesting evening. I think the way it's set up obviously is designed to help Joe Biden. And Donald Trump knew that going in. Look, he wants to be out there for the American people to see. He wants to get on a stage with Joe Biden and talk about what he did as president and what Joe Biden has done as president. And I think at the end of it, people are going to come away remembering how much better off their life was when Donald Trump was in that White House. And I, for one, am very excited to see it.
Will your father-in-law shake the president's hand?
I assume so. I don't see why not.
What do you mean, why not? You just said why not. I mean, if it were me and you thought that I had brought down 34 felony counts on you, I'm sure you wouldn't hug me when you saw me. Let me ask you about something else, though. Let that go.
Chris, I haven't talked about it with him, but I can tell you, look, he's a fighter, but he's also, he's not going to do something just to be nasty about it. And I know that's the reputation that oftentimes gets labeled on Donald Trump.
That's a good segue.
I guess we'll have to wait and see. I haven't even asked him about that.
That's a good segue. O'Reilly was talking about that Donald Trump needs to not be mean. What do you think that means? And do you think that's something that is present in your father-in-law's head going into this?
Well, look, you saw Donald Trump the day after that verdict in that, of course, the clown show trial, Alvin Bragg's trial in downtown Manhattan. You saw him come out and do that press conference, and he was very calm and he was very collected and direct with his words to the American people. And I think he, of course, has the ability to do that. He's a very smart guy. He's a showman. Don't forget that he was on TV and on all of our TV screens for years on The Apprentice. So he gets how to operate, and he's able to adjust at times and do things differently. And I think you're going to see that he really wants to get his message loud and clear out to the American people tonight. And so I think he will be tough. And that's what we need. We need a fighter. And there's no doubt about it. Whenever you think about Donald Trump and you remember back to when he was in the White House, it was peace through strength. People didn't even try anything, our adversaries around the world, because they knew Donald Trump meant business. I think it's what we need more of, quite frankly, Chris, not less of these days. And so, yes, he will be tough, but he will be measured and he'll be concise and he'll be direct. And I think that the American people are going to come away from this really happy with the performance that Donald Trump gives tonight.
A couple more things.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.